This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Very pleasant good morning. It's 11:06 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on TuneIn and Alexa, where we have, it's up to 20,000 listeners down in South Florida. It's amazing. And that's probably because Charles Moskowitz managed to come back. Hello, Charles.
What? Hey, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Greg. You're very quiet.
Yeah, I know that.
No, I mean your volume.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, what's going on?
Well, the market turned lower. It's down about 160 right now. And the S&P is...
All I can see is me.
It's, just kind of another interesting day in the continuing saga of the election and all of the BS about relief and relief checks and unemployment and etc. And, I just wanted to let the listeners know that I have prevailed upon Dennis, who I think is probably the best commodities trader I've met, to start to do business through Great Wize Oz. And so anybody who is interested in doing anything in futures ought to send me their information at info at Great Wize Oz. That's with Z's. Great, WIZEOZ.com, and I will set up a telephonic conference call, and Dennis can give you an idea of what's to be expected. And so I think that's just another service that we're adding. I also believe that it's an important service. If you've seen any of my recent letters, you'll see that I've started to follow a great many commodities, because I think, if the government ever went shopping for food or gas or anything else, they'd realize that inflation is here and has been here for quite a while. And I think that favors commodities, and there are several ETFs, exchange traded funds, that deal with specific groups of commodities. But that's a one-off. Doesn't always correlate exactly. Like if coffee goes up in this market and our market goes down, JO, which is the coffee ETF, might not act well. But the futures are the purest of moves. And another thing you need to understand about futures is that there's always a market for them. They don't go away. And it's more price discovery than it is the market. There are no, as we're now hearing, there are no sexual harassment cases against the futures market, as opposed to the one with the outgoing CEO of Nikola.
Interesting. Yeah. I saw where, Singapore Airlines is, they're sort of back in the air again, I guess.
Yeah. Can you turn up your volume at all, Greg?
I am up almost all the way there, Charles.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll suffer with it.
Okay. Yeah, as the listeners are getting full volume, believe me.
Oh, good. Okay. So, Dennis, you got anything to say about...
Yeah. Good morning, Greg and Charlie. Charlie, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Oh, good. How is the color change up in New England?
It's nice. It's just beginning down here. if you go, the further north and west you go, the more you get towards, the biggest of the color changes.
Yeah. Well, this is my favorite time of the year there. I lived many years back in Wellesley, around your state, the
Yeah,
Massachusetts, and I really enjoyed it. Got great ball teams up there, too.
yeah.
I tell you, and etc. Well, anyway, Charlie, what I see here is that people, all of us are guilty of this, have a real difficulty in accepting change. All of us. Maybe I'm less guilty than most people, and you too. But I mean, we have a change going on here. I would say that there's more than a 50-50 chance that the bull market in stocks has ended. And the reason being, as you and I have always agreed, is that it's never different. People will say, oh, this time it's never different. And there's just no value basically in most stocks right now. Price earnings ratios are supposed to be PEs at about 15 is normal. And right now we're probably at about 25 with a completely manipulated market with gap earnings and non-gap earnings. And we have so many popular stocks at 30, 35, 40. So we'll see what happens with that. But Charlie, you know what I find that I wanted to ask you, because you do good work with this. I find that the crude market, which is very spongy now, is telling you that we really don't have much of a recovery. How do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree. And I think, I have been harping on this, and everybody was so excited about, COVID being, over. And now we're just learning a little bit more about it. And, you absolutely have to be aware that even in what we have, which is a consumption type economy, when people lose their jobs, and people are continuing to lose their jobs, even though the number is under 1 million a week for initial claims, it's still 900,000 or 850,000 a week. And, it has to filter in to the retail business and the travel businesses. I mean, you can't consume if you don't have cash. And so, that is a serious, serious problem. And you look at the oil, and the oil right now, I think, is more governed a bit fundamentally on the lack of demand for the byproducts. Nobody, even up here, even north of up here in Maine, nobody needs nat gas for heat. Jet fuel, which is the highest value product, is, non-existent. I mean, at best, airlines are only back from 92% to 80% of a breakdown in actual travel. And, you can't, if you can't travel, you can't go to a hotel. And so that part of the hospitality industry is at odds. And these things are really major contributors to unemployment. When you hear about retail and restaurants and bars that have tried to reopen at 25%, they can't make money there. And so if they can't make money, they can't have waiters and dishwashers and chefs, etc. And again, it filters down. When retail gets as bad as retail gets, that is really a problem. And I see it getting worse, not better.
Charles, I can tell you, Charles, what our governor has done in the state of Florida is that everything's open, 100%.
Company that is kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of a one-stop shop for a whole bunch of different products and medicines and such that is in several specific areas. So the name of his company is Generex. The symbol is GNBT. And Joe, why don't you tell people a little about this?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show. So my name is Joe Moscato. I'm the CEO of Generex. And Generex is a 25-year-old public company. It was a NASDAQ, national markets company for many years. Me and my management team took over the company in January of 2017. And, after the company was a little bit dormant,
What?
The company was fully diluted.
Charles, are you okay? Joe, go ahead. We got you fine.
Oh, sorry. Great. So, we took over the company. We reinvigorated the assets that hundreds of millions of dollars created, specifically our cancer immunotherapy platform, our infectious disease platform, as well as we're working on reinvigorating our diabetic platform, which is the buccal delivery of insulin. So we cleaned up the company, we cleaned up the cap table, and then we moved on to acquiring companies that made sense for our overall strategy. So we acquired Regentis. Regentis is in the Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis area. We acquired Olaregion, which has 17 approved, FDA approved and cleared applicational areas for, hard to close wounds. And, we just got the national contract for the VA system, VA hospital system, for those 17 applicational areas to treat their patients, their veterans, for hard to close wounds. We acquired an MSO, a doctor network, that's in 6 states, as well as other assets, Pantheon, Medisource, that really lend itself to our overall strategy, which is, to partner with doctors in the states that is allowable to partner with docs and use their backbones to move our product, our treatments, our hardware through their patient populations, as well as what we're doing now in, say, Arizona, which is we're doing remote monitoring for patients, chronic patients, for those doctors. We partnered with the doctors and clinics in Arizona, where we'll be deploying that new service and technology, over the next couple of months. And the overall idea there is to put in the modality services such as podiatry, ophthalmology, neurology in those clinics to service those clinics' patient populations, where we can do remote monitoring. Eventually, we'll get into telemedicine, as well as the EMR, electronic medical records, where a doctor has everything all under one roof to service those patients, and then to service those patients away from the practice because of COVID, allowing him to give a full complement of services to his patient populations. So we're very excited about the overall enterprise. We've acquired the companies necessary to give a big benefit to doctors as well as their patients, and do it a much different way than is traditionally done. So we're pretty excited about the future.
Hey, Joe, question as far as accuracy of telemedicine. How accurate is that?
It depends on the areas, but it's very accurate for wellness checks. It's very accurate for, say, post-surgery, where a patient will get surgery and a doctor will want to check that wound after surgery, do that wellness check, see if the patient is okay, see if, the enclosure from the wound is healing properly. You can do all of that on telemedicine very, very effectively, and keep the patient safe during this pandemic.
Wow, this is a very, very interesting story. So What has been the odyssey of working with the VA?
Well, it's unfortunate, but we got the big award, VA system wide for Excelgen. That's the name of the product. And we got that award in March, the end of March, which is a federal contract, VA system wide. And COVID put a kind of a monkey wrench in the middle of that, because the VA system shut down to all non-essential, non-COVID activities, so they can better serve their patient base. And we're just waiting for the VA system to open up. They have a plan in place to start opening up 25%, another 25%, all the way to 100% over the next couple of months. So we're quite excited about the opportunity that now we are a premier product for the VA system for hard to close wounds and surgery. So we believe that the VA will start implementing their reopen plans, and we'll start getting a lot of orders from the VA for our product. So but just like everybody, we've all been thwarted by this pandemic, and it's a shame, but we're figuring it out. The country's figuring it out, and we're getting better at how we work and treat patients because of it.
And I kind of understand about the the issues with COVID, but that's kind of I would kind of classify that as a situation that will change. But what I'm seeing, and what I've been seeing for a couple of years now, is a vast consolidation of services, like you're talking about, being in a whole bunch of different areas. And, I've also seen it in things like CVS, where CVS is, a prescription service. It's Minute clinics. They own Aetna. And so, this is definitely a context in which a company like Generex should be able to flourish.
Well, that's correct. I mean, that's a great example, too, of CVS. So they're doing certain parts of a overall enterprise to benefit patients. We're doing it a little bit differently. We're partnering with big doctor practices, as well as partnering with clinics, where we can, let's look at one of our clinics in Arizona. They are a massive endocrinology for diabetes clinic. That clinic has well over 65,000 patients that they see. They're all chronic patients, most of them, managed care, Medicaid, Medicare patients. So what we're doing there is we're putting in those modality services that go hand in glove with treating diabetic patients. So cardiology, neurology, ophthalmology, and podiatry. All those patients should get examined each and every year. They trust those doctors. There are 18 of them in that clinic. And what we do is we partner with those doctors and that clinic to service those patient populations in the areas that clinic doesn't have. We also have a pharmacy there that we're providing, intake, outtake. So when the patient leaves, they can pick up their drugs that they need, as well as we're providing those wellness checks on those modality areas for those patients that have those chronic problems and are entitled to getting those checkups. So, it's a whole plan in place where then we can move our own treatment products and services into those clinics, as well as surgeries. So we are right now in discussions with the surgery center there, where we can rent space, where we can provide not only the checkups in those modality areas, but then do the surgeries necessary to better treat the patient. So it's all under one roof. We also will be doing remote monitoring for those patients, as well as telemedicine, and having electronic medical records right there at the doctor's fingertips to better service those patients. It's it's an enterprise that will lend itself to our ultimate goal, which is to start a very large MSO in Arizona, with the ultimate goal of starting our own HMO. But with that, we'll be able to move our own products, our own services, and that'll be our benefit package for a complete HMO system that we're ultimately hoping to build.
Hey, Joe, this is Dennis in Colorado. I'm looking at the stock. Boy, a lot of interest came into it about the mid part of September. And it looks like we may had bottomed last Thursday. It looks like maybe we're ready to move up here.
Well, it's been a rough ride. When we took over the company, we promised the shareholders we would give back. We did it. We announced a big dividend that we were giving back to shareholders once we started our acquisitional strategy. Stock hit $26 a share. We gave the dividend. We paid it finally. The stock was auto adjusted down to 83 cents. We surged back up to 325, which is about a $62.50 cost basis. And then we started filing our S1s to be able to raise good money the right way. And it just took a long time with the SEC. It took a whole year for them to finally approve and let us go effective. But by then, the stock got hit hard by all of the things we paid for. We paid a lot of things with stock. We had to do a lot of convertible notes, unfortunately, while we were hoping and waiting to get those S1s approved. So we finally see the light at the end of the tunnel now, and we got our first two S1s effective about a month ago.
Well, I think the volume's indicating that there seems to be much more interest in the stock in the last week.
Yeah, well, it's been that way. I think we had to adjust our business a little bit, just like everybody has with COVID. COVID allowed us to get back in the infectious disease game. We had that platform stalled only because we focused all of our energies with the same technology in cancer, for cancer vaccines. We have some great data in breast cancer, prostate cancer. We'll be starting a bladder trial as well as a melanoma trial soon. We're spinning out our cancer assets, which is called NuGenHealth Immuno-Oncology, onto the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. We are now in the race with everyone else for the COVID solution for a vaccine.
Yeah, Joe, why don't you talk about that, the vaccine and what's going on in the Far East, you guys?
So right now we have potentially 5 partnerships that we're working on our vaccine strategy. We have Malaysia, Bintai Kindon, which is our partner there in Malaysia. We're hoping to sign that contract for a vaccine for Malaysia. It's a $150 million contract. There's money up front. There are licensing fees. So Generac stands to make about $150 million on our vaccine strategy for Malaysia. We're in discussions with I think it's one of the only vaccine company in South Africa. They're partnered with the WHO, and we're talking to them about a vaccine for Africa. We're also in discussions with Canada. Canada had alerted us they want to work with us in bringing our vaccine forward for Canada and the people of Canada. And we are working with China and a few other countries, Singapore, to potentially bring this vaccine. We just had a great response from the FDA on our pre-IND package. It was great that the FDA agreed with us that we don't have to do animal studies because of the fact that all the work we've done in that area for 15 years and all the other potential pandemics that had come and gone. We have great data that shows complete safety. And we're pretty excited about where we're going with the vaccine.
It is exciting.
Well, it's always nice, Charlie, when you have a company that's really trying to help out the health of the world. So kudos and good luck to you.
Thank you.
That's what's making money selling Starbucks doesn't excite me as a company like yours that's trying to help the world out.
Well, the big thing here is that we have, a long-term history in infectious disease as well as cancer. The same exact technology. We've proven over and over again that it's safe, we're effective, and the big thing is we give long-term memory. So we have a complete vaccine we're working on. One that will give the humoral side, which is the antibody side. Two, the cellular side, which is CD4, CD8 T cell activation for long-term memory. And, we have a lot of data that says that we are safe. And, the big thing that I believe that everybody's missed is children. And, with the other pathways, it's really unproven what the effect of, DNA pathways will do with children. But we know we're safe, and that's another area we're going after, as well as trying to solve. Of course, no one else is even mentioning children.
Yeah. So, what are the vaccines that you're working on right now, Joe?
Well, we have a partnership with Merck for breast cancer, triple negative, in combination therapy with Keytruda. We are right now recruiting that trial. It's a phase 2A trial. And if we have great success with that trial, like we had independently in triple negative with our large phase 2B trial that we conducted, we're hoping that we can do a deal with Merck and, further that in combination, in a phase 3. So we're working on that. We have a planned bladder trial that we will be starting soon. We have a planned melanoma trial we will be starting as well soon. Once we have NuGenHealth Immuno-Oncology spun out into its own public, traded entity. So pretty excited about the future. Obviously, we feel very strongly that we have a great solution with long-term memory with our COVID vaccine, and we're working, significantly to get that done. We're in testing. The beautiful thing about our technology, we'll know if it's safe, we'll know if it's effective, we'll know if we're neutralizing, not neutralizing, where all of the off targets typically will occur. We believe that that gives us a big advantage going in to human trials. So right now we're doing all of the lab, blood work, assays to find out if our vaccine is effective, safe, and will be neutralizing, which is the important piece there.
What my personal feelings about biotech in general, I've kind of distilled it down with all of these little companies because, frankly, these little companies are the ones that get bought up overnight when they have some sort of success in an area that somebody else, somebody bigger and more well-known, has an interest. And my attitude has always been that when I looked at biotech, when I wasn't looking at the biggest ones, when I was looking at the smallest ones, the most important thing for me was who are their partners? Who are they doing business with? Who can be supportive as opposed to, for years, the issue with small biotech was one of dilution of shareholder equity because, they're all starting stage stuff and it's very expensive. And it sounds like you have some really great partners and some people who, if you have success in the specific area, as far as I can tell, it's easier to buy a company than it is to build one. And, having those kind of partners is really a plus for any company your size.
I mean, that's the key. I mean, look at the landscape of COVID. It's really top of mind for everybody right now. Most all of the large pharmaceutical companies went out to get a product or to get a pathway for COVID. I mean, all of them. I would say 90% of them all went out to a small group like ours, and they either acquired or partnered with that company's science. So, all I would say 90% of all big pharma, products that make it through commercialization, make it through the FDA, all come from small companies like ours.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the research arm for big pharma.
Hey, Joe, quick question from Tom in New York. Tom, you're on.
How you doing?
Speak up, Tom. You're real low.
Okay, let me change this. Is that any better?
Much better. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so, obviously we've been watching the news here, and everybody wants to get a vaccine, and, one of the big problems is everyone says their vaccine's going to work, but, until we get through the end of trials, no one really knows. Everyone seems confident. I mean, Joe, what makes you so confident in your vaccine? Why is your vaccine going to be either better or even proven to in the end, work and get through? Because, we need a vaccine, right? Let's get going and get the vaccine working. But how do we know your vaccine's even going to work? What's pointing us in that direction?
Well, we have a lot of areas that we've been in with our vaccine. Again, our technology does not change, whether it's breast cancer, prostate cancer, swine flu, where we have human data. It doesn't change at all. What does change is the peptide selection. So, if you take a look at the landscape of mRNA, RNA, DNA, and then we're in the category of subunits, they all use spike protein. So in the spike protein of COVID, there are about 165 epitopes. And out of those epitopes, you match them up with peptides. And that's the way we do it. We match up and we take the best peptides out of those epitopes that will give us the best coverage, that are neutralizing, not neutralizing. Of course, non-neutralizing, those are the bad guys. They create neutrophils, they create off-targets, and that's where, everybody right now is focused on what are the off-targets that any of these pathways will potentially generate once it's in humans. So we know that we pick the 3 to 5 best peptides from that spike protein, those epitopes, that are neutralizing, that will give the best coverage and are the most effective towards this virus. So I'll give you an example. If you take a look at University of San Diego, who's our partner in our testing of our assays, the off targets, they're one of the best in the country. So they came out with, there were 1,800 antibodies that are derived by getting COVID and in the body, and 1,791 of them are not neutralizing. 9 of them are neutralizing. That's very, very bad. 1,791, when you use a spike protein, potentially you can get one of those 1,791 replaced with your MH1, MH2 class molecule. And that there is a mix for getting potentially an off-target side effect, like cytokine storm, like RHF in children, or any of the other 30 or 40 different off-targets that have been generated through these pathways in the past. So we know going in, if we're neutralizing, if we're safe, and if we're effective before we go into humans. So, and just like all of our other areas, breast cancer, if you take a look at our breast cancer trial, We just came out with our 10-year data, and in the triple negative area, about 85% of those women that were on our vaccine for recurrence are all doing well. They're alive. And unfortunately, in the control arm, where they didn't get a vaccine, they're all deceased. So we know that we give long-term sustained memory, which is key, my belief, for COVID. Because getting COVID over and over and over again with some protection that just an antibody vaccine will give, will build up protein. Getting the vaccine over and over will build up protein. And that's when the body will start attacking itself, like the cytokine stories of vaccines that have gone before in the past. So we're highly confident that we will be safe and we will have an effective vaccine at the end.
Tom, did Joe answer your question?
Well, I was just going to say, it sounds like a great and safe alternative to what the big guys are putting out. So I guess the million-dollar question is, when can I get this stuck in my arm, Joe, at Walmart or something like that?
Well, I mean, we have a way to go. We hope that all the vaccines will work. The country needs it. The world needs it. People are getting very sick. People are dying. And, we wish everybody great success in bringing, whether it's short-term, mid-term, or all three, long-term included, solution. I think everybody's hope is that will occur as quickly as possible.
Go on, Joe. I'm sorry.
But if not, I believe that we will offer a great solution into the future for especially the long-term memory piece, as well as the children. I mean, I think right now no one's really focused on the children whatsoever. I believe that because we're so safe, in all the approaches of the past, I believe that we probably offer one of the better solutions for our children and for infants.
Yeah, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you have a platform that is already safe and that is an effective delivery. And I think that people don't really understand that when these companies talk about creating a vaccine, it's not like they're throwing together 97 ingredients that they think will be good. They're using the platform that they have, which is already proven safe and effective, and then turning it towards the other problems. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's pretty spot on. I mean, obviously, everyone has to do the work. But the big thing, that people need to look for is, the off targets would have stopped many, many, many vaccine trials in the past. Same pathways that we have today. I believe that, as time goes by, pathways get better. We learn a lot more from each time we go into another area. But I believe that, there will be a solution. I hope that we're part of it. I know that we can be part of it. And based upon our past and our successes to date, I mean, we've never got a commercialized product as of yet, and neither have any of the other, players in the space, other than maybe Merck, which, they did the Ebola vaccine.
Well, it certainly is, interesting, and for me to understand what you're talking about with no background in it is really very helpful. And I think, that the company just needs a little bit more visibility in order. And as Dennis said, the volume in the last week or so looks like you're actually getting that. More volume. There's an old saying in the market technical area that volume precedes price. And when you get a huge increase in volume, which, in layman's terms is increased interest, increased eyeballs looking at it, that is generally very good for stock, regardless of price.
Yeah, I mean, listen, any of the we've announced that we're working on these vaccine opportunities with varying partners or with countries to bring our vaccine to their populace. We believe that, based upon where we are in either negotiations, in contract work, and finalizing those contracts, all that will sort itself out once we start finalizing and closing what we've already announced. So we have a lot of opportunity here. We have a lot of interest now, and we're getting more interest, for the vaccine. I believe that we'll close, all of the vaccine announcements that we've, put on the table. Malaysia, I believe, will be the first one. We've been knee deep with the lawyers back and forth on the contracts, and we're hopeful to get that done, very, very short term. Once that occurs, we'll have all the money we need to finish up all the assay work and the blood screens, and then have a fully complete vaccine, one that is humoral as well as cellular in its responses, that will be effective and safe for people and for children. So, again, we're very excited about where we're going with everything. And it's, in the in drug development world, it's not always who gets there first, it's who gets there last, but is the most effective and offers the biggest solution. So I believe that we will be one of those companies.
Joe, you say short term. What does short term mean in the whole virus game?
Well, I mean, listen, what you hear today is all the different approaches give antibodies, right? But we do know that if you get COVID within the first 90 to 120 days, those antibodies go away. So you're not protected, maybe 180 days after you've gotten over COVID. The big problem with COVID is it's not like a flu. Once you get over a flu, there are no long-term effects from that flu. With COVID, we know that it affects every single system in the body: your circulatory system, your respiratory system, your organs, your brain, your heart. So it's not a virus to mess around with. For sure, everyone should really take the CDC's recommendations: wear your mask, distance, which you don't want to get this. Because even after you get over COVID, it's months and months and months for your systems to get back to where they were prior to COVID. So that's my big fear. My big fear is that once you get over COVID, the amount of time it takes to get your body back to where it was prior to COVID, and then if you get it again and you get it again, those long-term systematic events that occur even after getting COVID, I don't know if the body can handle getting it over and over and over again. And that's where I see the big problem. So short term for me would be being able to give antibodies, getting some sort of protection. As I'm sure you're aware, the FDA has already deemed that as long as you get 50% protection from the virus, they're going to approve these vaccines as long as they're safe. But 50% for me, with still being able to get COVID, time will tell if that solution will pan out. But for me, I wouldn't want to get this whether I have a vaccine in me that's 50% or a vaccine that's in me that's 30%, because once I'm over it, even if I get it with the vaccine, which you will, it's all the things that it does to the body that I would be most worried about.
Joe, I think the other question I would have for you is what about the anti-vaccine crowd that, doesn't, even go and get flu shots?
Well, I can say this: if there is, at the end of the day, a safe and effective vaccine that gives long-term memory, that's the key, long-term memory, and that the FDA even says that it's safe for children. I got to tell you, I would not be hesitating to take the vaccine because the outcome of not having a vaccine and not getting a vaccine and getting COVID, getting over it, and then having all of those systemic long-term effects after you've gotten over COVID, for me, is just it's not worth not taking the vaccine. So I would suggest that everybody, once there is a safe and effective vaccine, one that can go into children, I would suggest everybody get on that line and get that vaccine.
Wow. Charles?
That's great, Joe, and I really appreciate the fact that you've explained to us all about this, not from the position of a scientist. I mean, you've made it very clear and understandable what the company is doing, and it is very exciting.
Yeah, and thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to bring it as basic as I could without bringing the science into it, because it really is, unless you understand the science parts, it does get a little confusing.
And only 95% of the audience doesn't do that. So,
Yes. Yeah, you would have lost 95% of our audience. That's for sure.
Well, it's kind of difficult to kind of bring it down from a science perspective when all you do is talk science, because that you're involved with scientists, you're working with institutions to bring this vaccine out, and I had to kind of think about how I would approach some of your questions.
well, that's great, Joe, and we really appreciate your coming on. I know that you have a bunch of things that are coming in the very near term, Malaysia, China, etc. And we'd really like to have you back at any time you'd like to come back to give an update. But, certainly in the next couple of weeks, on the basis of the new press releases that, will come during that period of time. And I just want to make mention from the legal side that I am a shareholder in this company, and we did not get paid in order to do this interview. So I think, that speaks directly to put your money where your mouth is. I know that you're doing it, Joe, with your time and your energy, and I think that's something that shareholders understand and appreciate.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on, and love to come back. When we have that vaccine, the complete vaccine done and tested, which will be soon, that'll be a great time to come back and tell you all about it. And definitely be on the lookout for our press releases, of course.
And Joe, can you give people the website address and any other information on how they can get more information on Generex?
Yes. Well, you go to Generex.com, GENEREX.com. And then we are in the process of spinning out our cancer immunotherapy company, which we own 91% of that company now after a dividend we gave our shareholders. So that company was spinning out to NASDAQ. We believe that that'll add huge value to Generex once it's spun out. And that website we're working on should be up within the next 2 weeks. So that'll be NuGenHealth.com, NuGenExIO.com. So
And what's the symbol for the stock?
GNBT, Generex Biotechnology, GNBT.
Well, that's great, Joe, and I'm sure that we'll have in the very short term.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I thank all your listeners for sitting through and listening to what I had to say.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a million, Joe. And boy, Charles and Dennis, that's quite a picture.
Well, this kind of dovetails. I mean, they're not really related except in the business that they're in with the company that I had on a couple of weeks ago, Jan 1, because they're looking at, kind of non-opioid pain meds, which is, a gigantic area here. You have to remember that the biggest piece of the biggest demographic in the country right now is still baby boomers. And I'm there. And, at 70, getting COVID once, let alone more than once, would undoubtedly, kill a lot of people. And not so much kill them, but with Jan 1, with the non-opioid, at least they're not, their pain is managed and, they don't have to worry about addiction. But I think that Joe really kind of made some very interesting and important points.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's it's been something else. And Charles, you've got a couple minutes left. How do folks get in touch with you and with Dennis?
Okay, well, I think the easiest way is to email at info@moneyinfo. That's info at moneyinfo-llc.com. And as far as people who are interested in the subscriptions, or getting a trial subscription, or are interested in the coming futures trading, I think they can just go to Great Wize Oz, www.greatwize, W-I-Z-E, Oz, O-Z.com. And that'll give you entree into our 24-hour-a-day Discord trading room, and we'll get you direct access to me and Dennis if you're interested in the futures. And, that's about all I can give
I
them.
got two quick observations. I know we have number one, it looks like possibly, Charlie, the metals have bottomed. Gold came down $200.
Right.
And maybe we buy. Second thing is, I know it's an election year, but I read the book, The Money Changes by James Michener. And the greatest line was, don't trust the obvious. Yes. So I know the election year is usually good for the market. May not be this time.
All right. Well, very interesting as we head into the first presidential debate tonight. Thanks, guys. What a great show. Joe was awesome. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world. It's 12 noon.